Hey, you lovely lot, and welcome back to Crime Analyst and the Intelligence Cell. Now, I wanted to give you a brief update on the case of Nicola Bulley. And yes, the case is back in the headlines, and I want to tell you why. But before I do that, I just want to thank you all for subscribing to Crime Analyst YouTube. Please also check out the podcast as well. I drop different content on there where I deconstruct cases as an expert, talking about the behavior and the psychology, both in terms of victims and the perpetrators. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, then please do hit the subscribe button now. And I do want to return to the case of Nicola Bulley, because I think there's been quite an important update in the case. And I have to say that I did see this update when it happened, which was on April the 4th. But I was waiting for confirmation. And, well, just to backtrack a little bit before I tell you what the update is, I just want to remind everybody that Nicola Bulley, mum of two Nicola Bulley, disappeared on January the 27th. Now, she had got her two children up, taken them to school. She had sent a friend a message to organise a play date, emailed her boss. She had then taken the dog for the usual walk down by the river, the dog being Willow, and she took the harness off the dog. She was seen in various points, and I should say she was seen at various points on that walk. And then she just disappeared. She was on a Microsoft Teams work call, and her phone was found still connected to that call on a bench, and the harness and the dog lead were found underneath the bench, and the dog Willow was running up and down that stretch of river and near the bench. And the big question was, where was Nicola? And this case I started to pay attention to within the first week, because I know mums do not just go missing, and they don't get up and take their girls to school and go on a work call and organise future dates and then disappear themselves. So that's why I paid attention when it was a missing person case. I have talked about the case numerous times because I wanted to help the police when they started saying that they believed she'd gone in the water. And I didn't understand why they had said that when they hadn't looked at all the CCTV and put out appeals, etc. And I wanted to help them putting out various appeals for witnesses that were seen on CCTV. But like I said, it took a bit of a strange turn when they were saying that they believed she had fallen in the water, but there was no evidence as far as I could see that that had happened. Well, what we do know is that on February the 19th, so 23 days later, her body was found in the undergrowth and branches about a mile away from where her phone and from where her dog were found. So 23 days later, and that was after Peter Fording, who you'll recall did a number of searches along with other divers of the river stretch, and he basically said that she wasn't in the river. He used sonar and said that she wasn't there. And then 23 days later, her body was found in the undergrowth, so not even in the water. And so that raised a lot of questions for people. Well, the update is that on April the 4th, police divers were back in the water and they were back investigating. And it was actually a YouTuber, Maria Salars, who filmed them. And what she basically said, so the clip is about a minute long, but at the top of the clip, she basically said this, and I'm just going to read directly what she said. Just before I started recording, they waded up to the weir, climbed over, and one of them floated on his back just after the weir and looked as if he was trying to see if a body would get stuck there. And then we see on camera that, yes, there's a diver who's floating up from the weir and is turning over. And then the diver stands up and they're about waist deep, I would say. And that diver walks off to join another diver who's about knee deep in the water. So we can see that the water is not actually that deep at this point. Now, what's clear to me is that they are testing the water. And that's exactly what they should be doing. They're testing the water. They're trying to replicate the direction of travel that a body would take. Now, this is quite a hard experiment to do and to replicate because, and I'm going to be a bit graphic here, but a dead body is dead weight. particularly if there's clothes as well. There's no oxygen in the lungs, particularly if it's been across a period of time. And I'm sorry to be graphic, but that's what we're talking about here. So it is quite hard to replicate. But this is exactly what they should be doing. But my question is, why are they doing it 6 weeks later after Nicola was found? Now, that's not a question that I can answer. But I think it is important to say that this is another peculiarity amongst the many with Nicola Bulley's case. And of course, it leads to further questions. What I can tell you is that this investigation, Lancashire Police said, was done at the request and the direction of the coroner. Now, that's reassuring to me that the investigation is still ongoing. And it is interesting that the coroner has also told the police not to say anything more and also told the family not to say anything more. So these two things together tell me that there's more to this case. And we're not going to hear probably anything further until the actual inquest date. Now, that inquest date has been set for the 26th of June. So we now have a date as well. So I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. I know a lot of you wanted me to comment on this particular development, and I think it is a very interesting development. But I can't tell you why 6 weeks later, this level of investigation is now going on. I would have thought, in my professional opinion, it would have and should have been far earlier on that this should have taken place. But the good news is that they are doing it. It sounds like there are more questions to be answered. And that's a good thing, in my opinion. And I'm not going to speculate. And I do think the speculation is very damaging to the case. And many of you who've been following my updates will know that at no point have I speculated. I have given my opinion based on the facts, not of what has happened, but in terms of the investigation. And when things sounded off, particularly for a missing person investigation, I have voiced my opinion because it's really important and it could save a life. And we have to speak up for people who are the voiceless. And I say this time and time again. So please do go and watch my updates on the case as they unfolded, if it's a case that you're not familiar with. But I will keep you updated as events progress. And where I want to end is us thinking about Nicola and Nicola's family and her two children in particular. This is still very much ongoing for them. And I want to end thinking about them. Until next time, be curious, ask questions, and always trust your instincts.